Hey, I wanted to make this video for all my friends who have asked me a lot of questions about why I got a grain mill and how it works, sort of how does it change the process of making things. So I figured I'd answer why as quickly as possible in this video and then make another one for how it works and how simple it is and all that sort of thing. And I made a couple notes here so I don't go off on a tangent for too long, but you can see my little mill back there in the corner on the counter, and I love it. It's been such a great process, but it was kind of a journey to get there. Basically, about a year ago, I went to a naturopathic doctor because I had been sick on and off with like every sickness that came around for extra long, it seemed, and we were just constantly sick for 2 years. And so I went to a naturopathic doctor, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. But one of the things we talked about is how food spoils very quickly. Like the good food that we think is as healthy actually spoils really fast. And when it spoils, it's called going rancid. And so she gave me the example of olive oil, flax seeds, and chia seeds. And so, for example, flaxseed, you have this healthy recipe that calls for ground flaxseed, and you buy it already ground, so it's easier to make it. But flaxseed spoils; it goes rancid after 24 hours after grinding it. So, um, so that's flax seeds. Chia seeds are similar, and when you get the whole seeds, you still need to keep them in a dark place. That's like low humidity, or in the refrigerator or something like that to make them last longer, because they still will spoil even in their whole form after a couple months. And then olive oil is similar, that if it's out in warmth or sunlight, so if you leave it on your counter next to your stove, those are the two worst places for it, or qualifiers for making your olive oil go rancid. It will go rancid after a shorter period of time, just a couple of weeks. And then when you heat it for cooking and that sort of thing, it can also go rancid after, I don't remember what temperature, but so she actually said she never cooks with it. She'll use it for salad dressings and that sort of thing, but she never cooks with olive oil because of that. But the reason that's a big deal is because food that goes rancid becomes actually poisonous for your liver. So our liver is responsible for cleaning out all of the gunk and that sort of thing in our body and getting rid of it, getting it out of the body. But with toxins, they're very hard for the liver. It makes the liver work a lot harder, and oftentimes they can get stored in the liver. So it can cause all kinds of problems with the liver and the kidneys and that sort of thing later down the road if you're just building up these toxins inside of you. So this made me think, if grinding, and I've also heard it with herbs, that like once herbs are ground, they're only good for a short period of time as well. So it's like, if grinding things makes them go rancid faster, flour is very ground. So what about that? So I actually found a study, a couple studies in 1990 by Picker and Peterson, and another one in 1988 by Larson, that rancidity of flour can happen as early as 2 days after milling, and it shouldn't be used at all beyond 60 days after milling. So if you think about that, like by the time they mill the flour, package it, send it, ship it to the store, it's already probably rancid. So that's a problem. So, and they realize that that's a problem. So to make it last longer and keep it from going rancid, they do two things. They refine the flour and they add preservatives and other chemicals. So some big problems with this is that the refinement removes a large portion of the wheat. So wheat is very rich in nutrients. It's made of 3 different parts: the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. And a lot of that nutrients is held in the germ. And the bran has some, but it's a lot of fiber in the bran. And then the endosperm is just a lot of starch. So one cool quote I found was, because of its high content of vitamin E, wheat germ is promoted as a health food and has been proposed as a cure for almost every disease. That was in research in 1991 by Campbell, Hauser, and Hill. But it's got like it's got 40 of the essential nutrients that humans need to survive in wheat, the whole wheat berry. Humans need 44 nutrients to survive. So it covers a lot in the whole berry. But when they refine it, the germ is what makes it go rancid faster. And so they remove the germ. And that's where a lot of the nutrients is, in the germ. And they also remove the bran. When you buy whole wheat flour, so that's for white flour. When you buy whole wheat flour, they've also removed a lot of, they've removed the germ and the bran, but then they just add the bran, some of the bran back in, and they call it whole wheat flour. But it's not whole wheat flour. They've highly processed the endosperm and added some bran back in, which is just fiber. So you're still not getting an increase in the nutrients. So even in enriched flours, approximately 20 nutrients, there's an average loss of 70 to 80% of those nutrients when you're just getting the white flour and the whole wheat flour from the store, and you're not getting the fresh milled whole wheat berry. So that's a big deal. That was a big deal for me, a loss of nutrients. And then the other thing they do to make the shelf life longer is preservatives, aging agents, and some cleaning processes. So obviously there's preservatives in there. We all know that. I have a friend whose husband gets sick from just like one or two of the preservatives in bread. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That must be something I should look into and try to avoid for our family. But something else I found interesting is that they have these things called bleaching agents to chemically age the flour to give it stretch and resilience to the dough. So a lot of times, like old bakeries used to just let the flour sit for a long time. But then when they would go to use it, because then it would make the dough a lot stretchier and easier to make bread with. But then when they would go to use it, there'd be bugs in it and it would have gone bad. So to make it go faster, they would use a chemical agent, which is usually a form of bleach. And I thought it was interesting. The earliest bleaching agent used for 40 years, which was nitrogen dichloride, or also called agene, was found to cause canine hysteria, and then it was outlawed. So it's used for 40 years, 4 decades before it was outlawed. So now the current bleaching agent is benzoyl peroxide, also called BPO. And it has to be neutralized when they add it to the flour so that it doesn't kill us, make us really sick. So they neutralize it by adding calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, dicalcium sulfate, magnesium carbonate, potassium aluminum sulfate, sodium aluminum sulfate, starch, and tricalcium phosphate. So just to get that bleaching agent in there, BPO, they have to, and make it safe for consumption, they have to add all of these other chemicals, which I'm sure that has not been tested for over 40 years to see how it affects people. So a study from 2011 on mice said that BPO in bread can induce allergic reactions, is weak cancer causing, it causes vitamin E and nutrient destruction, is toxic to the skin, and can damage liver tissue. So that's after it's been neutralized by all these other chemicals that they've put in. That was from the NIH National Library of Medicine. So basically the bread that you buy from the store, it's got preservatives and that sort of thing in it, but not even including the preservatives, just for the aging and all that sort of thing. The flour and the bread has over 30 chemicals in it, and the yeast is allowed to have even more than that. So you are getting this big chemical soup in your loaf of bread from the store, that some of the things are known to be carcinogenic and have negative effect on animals. So we should be concerned for ourselves. But the interesting thing about the bleaching is that it's not even necessary if you just knead your bread for longer. So the fresh milled flour recipes that I have all call for kneading for 20 to 25 minutes minimum, where the regular flour recipes that I've used for the last like 2 years all only require 5 to 8 minutes of kneading. And they require that less amount of kneading because they have been bleached. So when I mill my own flour in my little mill back there on the counter, I don't have any of that chemical soup, and I get the whole amount of nutrients that the wheat has to offer in that wheat berry. So that is why I decided to get the mill. And I think I might even do another video with just some of the crazy research that shows how our refined white flour has negatively affected human and animal health in all kinds of research studies, because it's really interesting. But that is why I started. I hope that's helpful.